I've been meaning to ask, why did you join the Dawnguard? I've been meaning to ask, why did you join the Dawnguard?
I've seen firsthand how much death and destruction vampires can cause. I joined the Dawn
I
Guard
see.
to stop them.
I'm truly sorry for you. If it's worth anything, I want you to know that I'll do everything I can to right the wrongs my kin have caused. All this time I've been living idly while vampires wrought havoc across Skyrim. So many innocent people. I can understand what brought you into the fold. I'll do whatever I can to help. If it means we can stop the bloodshed, I'll stand with you. You have my word. I've been trying to find the right moment, but... Here, I got this for you.
The Greybeards have summoned the Dragonborn to High Hrothgar. Such a thing has not happened for
Yes?
hundreds
What
of
did you need?
years. You couldn't possibly be the Dragonborn of legend, could you?
Have you ever heard of a Dwemer god named Xrib?
No, I'm sorry. I've never even heard that name before. But the Honorable always carry the blessing of the Eight. The gods know what you need.
I'm sorry, I don't follow.
The strong and honorable always carry the blessing of the Eight.
The Divines would want you to help me if you can.
You're right, of course. I'm not sure what you think you'll find there, but you're welcome to have a look. The strong and honorable always carry the blessing of the Eight.
Encyclopedia Britannica, The Gods, Volume 9. Xerxes, god of ancestry and secretive knowledge, once described to Oriel, time dragon, CEB The Gods, Volume 1, and husband to Ogma, CEB The Gods, Volume 5, who he allegedly created out of his favorite historical moment. Xrib, one of the few known gods to have been recognized by the otherwise greater power disdaining Dwemer race. Xrib required sacrifices in his name in order to obtain his favors. The form said favors took is as yet undiscovered. An altar to Xrib, littered with the bones of former sacrifices, sits atop the mountain in northeastern Skyrim. Scribbled in the margins here is the following. A Dwemer god? What kind of, quote, research, unquote, went into the making of this ridiculous series? Kind reader, let me direct you to The Legacy of Dwemer Paragons by Himine Whippet. There you will discover the truth of who this Xrib really was. Calselmo, Dwemer scholar. Ifre, Bosmer god of the forest or woodland, and the current time, or now. He supposedly nurtured mortal men and Mer, the Bosmer particularly, by teaching them about the world, thus gaining the additional title of the storyteller. Ysmir, the northern aspect of the god Talos, said to have been able to hear the prophecy of the Greybeards. The knowledge of the prophecy gave him the countenance of a dragon, or perhaps he was just eaten by one. Hard to say, really. Zet, Yokuden god of farming and agriculture. Apparently he made the mistake of angering his father, the Yokuden version of the Allfather, which makes farming especially hard on Yokudens. Zen, Zenithar, one of the 9 divines, the god of commerce, work, merchants, and nobility.
Remind us of our place when we forget.
You're the Harbinger. The Greybeards have summoned the Dragonborn to hide off God. Such a thing has not happened. Answers to me.
Good to see Skyrim still has such fine people. You give an old man
I'm
hope.
Calcelmo's nephew.
I have things to study. What is it?
You seem to have written this note about Xrib in this book I found.
Let's see. Ah, well now, there's a name I haven't heard in some time. I'll have to make a point of rereading it. I don't recall the details. Why don't you head to my Dwemer Museum, see if you can find that book.
Don't let my uncle go on about his theories. He'll be here all night.
Yes? What did you need?
The Legacy of Dwemer Paragons by Herminia Whippet. Find the following relevant entry earmarked near the back of the book. Xrib earned the title of Paragon by being the primary inventor of the science behind the creation of automatons. He was the researcher who first discovered the way to breathe life into the constructs that changed Dwemer society forever. This breakthrough led to the bulk of the Dwemer peoples leading lives of relative leisure. They were able to focus on other pursuits, such as the continued advancement of Dwemer engineering. My research indicates that Xrib's university was most likely located in northeastern Skyrim, possibly underneath the very mountain where a monument to his or her godhood.
Wow. Just said as if you imagine
Yes? What did you need?
My blade is thirsty for blood!
right there.
Shit.
You have that.
That's the end of it.
Rocks and valleys,
Crevices and hiding places. This is the kind of place where hermits and fanatics dwell. You fit right in. I'm kidding.
Dovaki, come with me. Dovaki, come with me. Over here!
I was always taught to avoid these types of moons. I can see why now.
Well, it's just change. You're always welcome to me.
If you think I'm gonna let you have all the fun, you're crazy.
Force that mix up. Snäsmeni snubba. Härför då, måste jag force that mix up.
The Fall of the Snow Elves, How the Falmer Found Themselves the Blinded Slaves of the Dwemer, by Herminia Whippet. The following page has been earmarked. The Order of the Sky Sisters, as the Snow Elves called them, waited until the human hordes were almost upon them before finally taking revenge in the last remaining Dwemer city to offer them hospitality. It is said that the Sky Sisters were more suspicious of the Dwemer and their intentions than the other Snow Elven houses, and therefore held out initially. Eventually faced with the inevitability of the coming onslaught, they had no choice but to accept the terrible Dwemer bargain and take refuge in the depths of Offland. It's also said by some scholars that the Sky Sisters were the first group of snow elves to be fed the poisonous algae, and therefore discover the Dwemer's true intent, the enslavement of their entire race. There are references in Dwemer texts of this wing of Offland being sealed shut after an incident there, although no scholar to my knowledge has ever discovered further explanation of what occurred there.
Going to enjoy killing you. I'm going to enjoy
What did you need? The Tales of Serana and Her Charming Death Assassin. I'd actually want to read that. So, what's inside? Nice job. Anything good? Hope you're ready to lose. All right.
Dovahki, come with me. Come with me. Come with me. Dovahki, come with me. Over here!
course, except...
Jarl, we need to discuss the Forspawn.
The only thing we need to discuss is how many men it will take to
What could it be?
fight them where they live. We won't have to fight them here. Damn those Forspawn. They can kill people in my city. I've had Madon's head.
Good to see Skyrim still has such fine people. You give an old man hope.
I found this staff in Alftand.
Well, this is highly unusual and very interesting. It's clearly magical in nature, but like nothing I've ever seen before. There you go. This is for you. What? Oh, goodbye.
Yes? What did you need?
I have things to study. What is it?
Tell Selmo about those artifacts you needed me to
Is
find.
there something more you need? You already know all that I know. Yes, I have a lot of... search to do.
Well, this castle definitely looks better than the one back on the island. That's for sure.
Fool's Ebony, Volume 6. Part the 6th, by Friendships. Daggerfall and environs in the doldrums of the Third Era. Scene 1. The Adventurer's Suite in the Dead Daedra Inn. Enter Prologue, the Adventurer and Ortho. Ortho climbs into bed. Prologue. Thank you for allowing us the time to change the meager set while our bard sang that old favorite, Hail and Farewell. Now then, imagine, if you will, the luxuriant and languorous suite of the dark elven rogue, the Adventurer, and the Dead Daedra Inn. The time is shortly after the last scene, which, if you've forgotten, ended with our hero and his partner in crime, Nephron, making some arrangements to swindle from the mages, priests, and armorers. All are interested in getting their hands on a load of fool's ebony, a miraculous burning mineral, and the priests and mages each consider the adventurer their ally. The armorers know better, and have assigned one of their apprentices, Ortho, to watch the adventurer's movements. Now, as Ortho slumbers, the adventurer has his first moment of peace in days. I should mention that in the interest of common decency, this scene has been abbreviated from the original by order of the Guild of Playwrights, Actors, and Dramatists. It now contains little material of relevance. A full copy may be obtained from the playwright after the show for a mere 30 GP copying fee. Now is the time for poor Prologue to shuffle away. Exit Prologue. The adventurer begins to get undressed. Tap, tap at the door. Adventurer jumps, startled. Snore from Ortho. Adventurer. Who's there? I'm coming. Opens door carefully. Enter, Contessa. Adventurer, come in, please. The adventurer steps back, tripping over his trousers around his ankles. Contessa, so sorry to surprise you, but I thought that we might find something in common. Oh, you poor man, you have a wound. Here, let me fix that bandage. It looks very fresh. Fixing bandage properly this time. Adventurer, well, I just opened it up again. Evening exercises, calisthenics, so on. Contessa, how did you get this cut, if you do not mind me asking? Adventurer, no, not at all. I was, in a fight earlier. These three crazy people jumped to me. Contessa, really? This cloth looks like part of a mage's robe. Adventurer, well, yes, two of them were mages. Contessa, oh my, you must have been very good to defeat them. Adventurer, oh, well, I've been in one or two fights. Not to be rude, but who are you? Contessa, oh, I am so sorry. I quite forgot the proper introductions. I am the Contessa Avit Videspreet. Called me Ave. From the court at Daggerfall. Adventurer, by oblivion, what now? Contessa. Adventurer, aside. By oblivion, what now? Contessa, here, help me off with this robe. These inn-rooms are always so hot. And let me check that bandage again, poor man. Oh, you are wearing an ebony belt of stamina and bracers of strength. Ooh, a bracelet of endurance. This is my lucky night. Adventurer, aside. Help. Contessa, here, let me help you off with that old shirt. Gotta check you for any more cuts. They can go bad so easily, you know. Adventurer, aside. Well, it's not the armors this time. Maybe my luck has turned. Contessa, well, everything seems all right. Very all right, in fact. Adventurer, well, Ava, tell me about, yourself. Contessa, if you want, just for a bit. Adventurer, here, have some wine. Enter prologue. Prologue. Here our worthy playwright's speech has been heavily edited by the Guild of Playwrights, Actors, and Dramatists. I will endeavor to fill in those removed passages. I should first mention that the Contessa is not meant to be a relative of any noble currently in Castle Daggerfall. The Contessa of It regales the adventurer with tales of the peculiar and hardy members of her royal family. She has many brothers and sisters. They're all very close. Contessa, I think I must have been a bastard. I was the only one with red hair and an affinity for magic. Everyone else tried to hide this skill of mine. Remember once spanking very well. Prologue. The Contessa relates further differences between her siblings. Contessa, while my sisters were learning to curtsy in 10 different modes and my brothers were learning flower arranging, I used to sneak off into the woods or town. I soon learned how to get what I wanted from just about anyone. Just, for example, there was this merchant who had 3 sons. Prologue. The Contessa goes into detail about her training. Contessa, I became quite good at the School of Illusion. You never noticed me downstairs, did you? I also learned how to use some weapons. Let me tell you how I learned hand to hand. Prologue. The Contessa relates an amusing anecdote and then continues. Contessa, and on bad days I used to dig in my father's library. He had a marvelous collection of old texts. I was fascinated by Old Dwarvish, managed to learn it quite well, I think. Of course, no one has seen or spoken to one in years and years, so it's probably perfectly useless knowledge. But I've always had an interest in collecting new knowledge. At the Mages Guild, they taught me an old high elven tradition. You spread this potion all over your body. Prologue. The Contessa relates her current state of boredom. Contessa, the life up at the palace bores me. My sisters. Prologue. The Contessa's sisters are entertaining some visitors. Contessa, and my brothers are now studying advanced floral theory, so I come down here to a little, business. I keep all my relations supplied with their favorite vices. So I can blackmail the whole rotten lot. Adventure, but isn't it dangerous down here? Did I not hear that some young Contessa got killed recently? That little twit was my cousin, and as far as I'm concerned, she got what she deserved. She thought she could just borrow a maid's dress, muss up her hair, and pass for a commoner. She was spotted the first minute she left the palace gates. Now, I use illusion, craft, guile, and I carry weaponry. By the way, that was a neat scheme you and Neff cooked up. Adventurer, well, let's change the subject, can we? Just what do you carry? I can't see anything. Like a weapon, I mean. Contessa, here, let me show you. Adventurer, oh, my, those are nice knives. Contessa, and there's more. Adventurer, oh, yes. Contessa, but we don't need these silly, nasty weapons now, do we? Adventurer, my, now those are what I call weapons. Oh, yes, heavy-duty, high-class ones, too. My. Contessa, I think it's time we put that ebony to the test. You say nothing of your mage's stuff. Prologue. At this point, extensive material has been removed. However, please remember that any scholar who truly wishes to peruse the material can obtain a copy for only 50 GP. Hand-drawn illustrations are, of course, extra. The Contessa, after a bit of fun, volunteers to be part of the adventurers' party to find the fool's ebony lode. I know, it didn't make much sense in the original draft either, if you want to know the truth. Exit prologue. Adventurer, so you want to go out there in the wilds? Contessa, oh, yes, I am so bored here. Well, not right here and now, but generally. And I can really be of assistance. I'm pretty good with wood survival, knife work, hand to hand. And it gets cold out there at night, even for a big ebony-wearing man like you. Adventurer, all right then. Do you know where and why we're going? Contessa, no, of course. It's all over Daggerfall. Everyone's watching and waiting to see what happens. There's even a lottery or two running. Adventurer, on what? Contessa, oh, your life. Adventurer, oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, my. Contessa, look, don't worry. I know all about the double dealings with mages, priests, merchants, those crude armorers, and I intend that we come out on top. I love being on top. With the goods and the profits. I've yet another vice to sell to my stupid relatives in their boring palaces. Adventurer, but won't it be us two against hordes? Contessa, no. Most everyone's waiting here in town to see what and who comes back. And I will have a surprise arranged for our escorts, Ortho included, out in the wilderness. They can be dealt with easily. Ortho snores. Adventurer, tell me more. Contessa, certainly. But first, let's see how many uses you have left in that ebony. Your mage's staff is in good shape. Enter prologue. Prologue. Exactly. Sorry to interrupt again, but we're going to have to stop this scene right here. After frenzied night comes the placid dawn, tripping into the dark like a budding rose, and then another day doth dawn, and then another. 10 dawns and 10 frenzied nights pass as our wily adventurer, the wanton Contessa, the clever and naughty Nephron, the lattish Ortho, and an assemblage of randy armorers and backsliding maidens take to the road. Imagine now that we're in the wildly wilderness of High Rock near the Rothgarian Mountains. Scene 2. Enter Nephron and assorted lads and lasses. Exit prologue. Contessa, I do so love a bucolic frolic. Adventurer, it's getting pretty wild now. I guess the dangerous part is coming up tomorrow? Contessa, yes, one last stop tonight at that old inn up here, Minnie's Inn. Adventurer, Minnie's Inn? Oh, those 2 old scholars who gave it all up came to run the inn out here. They must get all of 2 customers a year. Contessa, I think they like the solitude. It gives them time to study. They know a lot about old dwarvish stuff. Get them started on that. They will wear your ears out. Adventurer, when does your surprise happen? I should probably know. Contessa, don't fret, dear. At the inn tonight. Just sit back and enjoy the show. Enter prologue. Prologue. Time passes. The carts roll. Things happen. In the back of carts. And there are strange furtive movements unnoticed by all on the high ridges around. When next we see our players, they're at Minnie's Inn, home of Minnie and Crun, the philosopher innkeeps. Imagine, if you will, the rather dusty dining room of Minnie's Inn. Enter Minnie, Crun, and Guernsey. Exit prologue. Guernsey goes to Orthos's table, with more ale for him. She sits down suddenly. She stares into Ortho's eyes. Ortho stares into hers. Mouths drop open. Minnie. Kron? Kron. Yes, Minnie. Minnie. I was thinking. Kron. Yes, you were thinking, Minnie. Minnie. Thinking. Kron. Yes, so was I. Minnie. Can't remember now. Kron. Yes, Minnie. 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 Yes? Kron. Shut up. Guernsey and Ortho together. Moo. Oh, moo. Adventurer. Moo? Contessa. See, Adventurer? Ortho's fixed. Adventurer. Is he? Contessa. You just watch. Adventurer. And what about the other armorers? Contessa. Any minute now. Ortho and serving girl arrive. Arise, approach Adventurer's table. The floor shakes. Ortho. This Guernsey. Ortho love Guernsey. Oh. Guernsey. Guernsey love Ortho. Moo. Ortho. We go get married, we is. Adventurer. Well, congratulations. And that was a fine long speech, Ortho. Ortho. We go raise piggies. Guernsey. Grows animals too. Farmers be we. Exit Ortho and Guernsey. Adventurer. Extraordinary. Ava, I think that you must have been up here before. Contessa. Oh, yes. I often come up here to get away from the palace and talk dwarves with Minnie and Crun. Adventurer. You mean that these two ancient, scholar innkeeps can actually talk? And about dwarves? All but Adventurer, Contessa, Minnie, and Crun fall asleep in their meat pies. Contessa. Oh, yes. You must just be very patient. Look over at our other escorts. Adventure. Why, the lady. Contessa. Minnie was an alchemist before she met Crun, and knows a lot of old, forgotten, dwarvish potions. Adventurer. But what do we do with the bodies? Contessa. Wait. Enter Major. Contessa. Adventurer, meet Major Bloodknock, head of my own private little bodyguard. He's been with me since I was a mere girl. Served me very well, haven't you, Major? Major. We give her all, m'lady. Adventurer. Pleased to meet you, Major. Contessa. How are my other men? Adventurer. Other men. Enter other men in Khajiit suits. Major. All present and accounted for, m'lady. I spot a bother with what looked like a party of merchants following you, but they're out of the picture now. Down a ravine. Only one thing. Contessa. Yes? Me and my men. We've been noticing sort of furtive movements up on cliffs, on ridges, always just out of the corners of our eyes, and we keep getting this feeling of being watched. Now, me and my men, we're the best, but there's something out there. Don't like it. Not one bit. Contessa. Oh, dear, and just when it was getting to be fun. Major. It's not anything human. Not mages, armorers, priests, and it's not the usual werewolves, harpies, orcs, Daedra. Nothing like that. Not at all. Minnie. Dwarfs. Crun. Where? Oh, Minnie. You mean up there. Here. Minnie. Dwarves up there. Crun. How exciting. Minnie. There, Crun. Calm down. Just dwarves. I knew that one day they would. Crun. Wake up. Minnie. Come back. Crun. But I didn't go anywhere. Minnie. The dwarves, Crun. Crun. Oh, back. So excited. Dwarves. Ooh. Contessa. Well, Major, is it possible? Major. Anything's possible, especially up here. Dwarves? I don't know. Me and my men, we'll get rid of this lot. There's a good deep mine shaft out back. Exit all but the adventurer and Contessa. Adventurer. Dwarves? Is that trouble? I mean, they sort of own all the ebony down here, don't they? Contessa. Maybe. I guess we just have to push on, see what develops. I could try to talk to them, maybe. Oh, and Adventurer, they'll have to drive the first cart. I'll take old Nephrons. We'll leave the others here. Spares for later. Adventurer. What? No more bucolic frolics? Contessa. Sorry, but we've got to get to the site and out again before the weather goes bad. Adventurer. Can't your major and his men handle the carts? Contessa. Oh, no. They will cover us from all sides and make certain there are no surprises. Adventurer. Oh, well, all good things end, I guess. Contessa, not quite. If you have any charges left in your bracelets of endurance, we can go upstairs and see what develops. Enter prologue. Prologue. Well, I guess we all saw that coming. Scene 3 takes place sometime later in the site. Flanked by the Major's men, the adventurer and the wanton Comtessa successfully follow the map of the dear departed mages. Imagine great veins of glistening, ebony-esque material piercing the surface of the ground, and a nice warm fire of fool's ebony where the adventurer and the Contessa sprawl. To the west are signs that the weather is turning and the first major snowstorm of the year is coming. For some time they've been mining, and the adventurer is beginning to feel the strain of the actual labor. Exit prologue. Scene 3. Adventure. I've got blisters on my hands from shoveling that black rot, blisters on my rear from that carp bench, and we're running out of ale. My bracelet's running down and my fingers are getting frostbite. Contessa. What? Your bracelet's running down? Oh, now that is serious. Enter Major, running. Dwarves, milady, dwarves. Dozens of the little buggers caught my men. I'm sorry, milady. Contessa jumps to her feet. Contessa, Major, get out of here now. If you get away, you can maybe help us later. I'll try to talk to them. Exit Major. Enter dwarves. Contessa. Dwarves, together. Jipu, kagalu, gashnu, biblu, franu, znandu. Contessa. Jnik? Balpo? Dwarves, together. Gablu, waziku, epipupu. Contessa. Cookie. Adventure. What's going on? Contessa. Relax. I think I've impressed them by talking their language. I don't understand everything, but it seems they've only just woken up or something, and that they will not let us take any of this fool's ebony. It's somehow related to the real stuff or something, and it really belongs to the Lords of Oblivion. The dwarves are just care or something. Adventure. Very interesting. Now, what about us? Contessa. I made a deal with them. The only way I could see. I told them about Minnie and Crun, how those two old ones know lots of dwarven tales and legends. Dwarves tells me that, having just woken up or something, they want 3 things. Ale, women, and for us to leave the fool's ebony alone. Adventure. Flog my log. Contessa. Well, I told them about all the ale down at Minnie's Inn, and about the 2 redheads there. They are going there, leaving right now. We may take 1 empty cart, 2 horses, and they will keep us guarded all the way there. They also said that they will, I don't know how, destroy all the fool's ebony here. It shouldn't be on the surface like this, they say. Dwarvish is a remarkably compact language. Adventure. By the great roaring buttocks of Sheogorath, all these blisters and backache for nothing. Oh well, at least we're still alive. For now. Exeunt. Enter prologue. Prologue. Fardu lickety canalu, glad flu. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Scene 4 begins. We are back at Minnie's Inn. The dwarves appear to be on holiday. Enter the adventurer, the wanton Contessa, Minnie, Crun, and the dwarves. Exit prologue. Scene 4. Minnie. Snu? Crun. Clarky. Dwarves together. Jacha Pacha Lazo Lani Jupi Hubi Kumi Amet. Amati Kanamim. Adventure. Have any ideas? I can't seem to work out my magical items, and when the ale runs out. Contessa, your ebony material is useless against them. Dwarves fashion the ebony, so I guess they can suppress it or something. Don't worry, just think these dwarves have been asleep or something for hundreds of years, and Minnie has a huge stock of ale. Not many customers come this way, and she knows how to salt the ale just right to keep it from spoiling for decades. Adventurer. Oh, that's why my tongue always looks like a chunk of leather after a pint or 2. Contessa. Dwarves apparently love ale. I expect them all to pass out in an hour or so. Dwarves fall into comas. Contessa. If not sooner. Come on, adventurer, grab a sack and start collecting. When the dwarves wake up, they'll finish the ale, and then us. The wanton Contessa and adventurer pillage the dwarves. Adventurer. South, as fast as our horses will take us in this weather. Contessa. If we make enough distance before they wake up, we'll be all right. I don't think they'll leave their precious mountains. I hope not. Enter prologue. The wailing wintry wind whirls wickedly, wafts whipping, waiting, waist high. Oh, never mind. The adventurer and the Contessa get lost in the snowstorm. Several days later we find them desperate for warmth and exhausted. Exit prologue. Adventurer. The horses have had it. They can't go another step, and it's going to snow again. No ale left and just one loaf. Contessa. They'll have to do. Suddenly, a party of giants leaps on our hero and heroine, but after some quick work with bracers of firestorm, really dead giants lie around in heaps. Adventurer. Anything left, Ab? Contessa. No more fire or anything. Just my daggers. Adventurer. Same here. Just a common short sword. Curse Sheogorath for those dwarves. Those oafs chewed up our horses. Do you think the Major made it out? Contessa. If anyone can, it's him. Guess we'll find out in town. Interesting thought just occurred to me. Don't giants hunt in several groups? Is that more I hear? Sounds of grumbling and gargling off stage. Adventurer. Yes, there are more giants over there. Quick, Ava, help me with this one. The adventurer starts to disembowel a giant's body. Contessa. What on Tamriel are you doing? This is not the time for studying anatomy. Adventurer. Don't argue. Climb inside. Contessa. Poppy Dash and Baldercock. Inside that smelly dead giant? My dear adventurer, I'm a lady. Adventure, it's our only hope. The giant smell will hide our scent, and live giants never touch dead ones. Quick! The adventurer and the Contessa climb inside the steaming giant's body. Adventurer, here, help me pull the skin shut, and try not to throw up. Don't make a sound. Enter prologue. Prologue. A few hours pass. Exit prologue. The adventurer and the wanton Contessa poke their heads out of the giant's belly. Adventurer. They've all left, but it's snowing hard. Definitely getting real cold. We better stay here. Contessa. It indeed is warm. Adventurer. It will keep us warm, save for the storm and giants, for a day or so if we can stand the smell. Here, want some bread? Contessa falls victim to nausea. Enter prologue. Prologue. For this, the last scene of our play, please forgive us, but we need to change the set, move the giant corpses and whatnot. Please be patient while our bard performs the timeless classic, Whither Goest Thou? Bard plays Whither Goest Thou. If the scenarists take too long, he also plays For Further Consideration. Prologue. Ah, here we are, back at the Dead Danger Inn. The Contessa and the adventurer made it after all. They have to pay 3 times the normal rate, for they were very dirty and stinky. Now, poor Prologue will bid you farewell, goodly people. Scene 6. Contessa. Thank the gods for hot water and soap. I thought I would smell like a giant forever. Adventurer. Me too. Where did you go while I was bathing? And why no mages, priests, armorers, or merchants outside yelling for our blood? Contessa. I took a quick trip to the palace. I fixed it so some cousins have told the armorers and merchants that we don't have any cartloads of fool's ebony. Adventurer. Pity that that's actually true. Contessa. But at least no one's interested in us anymore. Seems that some priests turned up dead in an old temple up on Edward's Mountain. They were found with some girl, all dead from bad green powder or something, and some old mages named Shub have gone missing. Adventurer. Now then, what did you stuff in those sacks that's so important? Contessa. Here, dump them out, take a look. Adventurer. By the gods, just look at that. Contessa. Yeah, those dwarves were just loaded with ebony. Look, rings, torques, bracers, belts, helms, all solid old ebony. Adventurer. And this stuff feels just loaded with magicka. Why, I bet that this ring alone has 1,000 uses with whatever it does. Contessa. Look, braces of extreme endurance and a belt of strength. Put them on, adventurer, let's celebrate. Adventurer. Aside. Help. Enter epilogue. Epilogue. As I feared, all the loose threads of the play were ended by wholesale slaughter. More of the adventures of the adventurer will follow, unless, of course, they don't. We thank you for your tempered patience. Don't forget to tip your worthy wenches on your way out this evening and enjoy our bard's rendition of the Khajiiti classic, It's a Matter of Luck. Good night. Flourish. Exeunt omnes.
With his god destroyed, Wulfharth finds it hard to keep his form. He staggers out of Red Mountain to the battlefield beyond. The world has shaken, and all of Morrowind is made of fire. A strong gale picks up and blows his ashes back to Skyrim. Wulfharth adopts and is adopted by the Nords then, Izmir the Grey Wind, the Storm of Kine. But through Lorcan he lost his national identity. All he wants the Nords for is to kill the Tribunal. He raises a storm, sends in his people, and is driven back by Tribunal forces. The Dunmer are too strong now. Wulfharth goes underground to wait and strengthen and reform his body anew. Oddly enough, it is Almalexia who disturbs his rest, summoning the Underking to fight alongside the Tribunal against Adasum Dir Kamal, the Akaviri demon. Wulfharth disappears after Adasum is defeated and does not return for 300 years. It is the rumbling of the Greybeards that wake him. Though the Empire has crumbled, there are rumors that a chosen one will come to restore it. This new emperor will defeat the elves and rule the united Tamriel. Naturally, Wulfharth thinks he is the figure of prophecy. He goes directly to High Hrothgar to hear the Greybeards speak. When they do, Ysmir is blasted to ash again. He is not the chosen one. It is a warrior youth from High Rock. As the Grey Wind goes to find this boy, he hears the Greybeard's warning. Remember the color of betrayal, King Wulfharth. The Western Reach was at war. Cuchulainn, the king of Falkreath and West Cyrodiil, was in a bad situation. To make any bid at unifying the Colovian estates, he needed to secure his northern border, where the Nords and Reachmen had been fighting for centuries. He allies with Skyrim at the Battle of Old Hroldan. Leading his forces was Hjalti Earlybeard. Hjalti was from the island kingdom of Alcair in High Rock, and would become Tiber Septim, the first emperor of Tamriel. Hjalti was a shrewd tactician, and his small band of Colovian troops and Nord berserkers broke the Reachmen line, forcing them back beyond the gates of Old Hroldan. A siege seemed impossible, as Hjalti could expect no reinforcements from Falkreath. That night a storm came and visited Hjalti's camp. It spoke with him in his tent. At dawn Hjalti went up to the gates, and the storm followed just above his head. Arrows could not penetrate the winds around him. He shouted down the walls of Old Hroldan, and his men poured in. After their victory, the Nords called Hjalti Talos, or Storm Crown. Cuchulainn, with his new invincible general, unifies West Cyrodiil in under a year. No one can stand before Hjalti's storms. The Underking knows that if Hjalti is to become Emperor of Tamriel, he must first capture the Eastern Heartland. Hjalti uses them both. He needs Cuchulainn in the Colovian estates, where foreigners are mistrusted. It is obvious why he needs Ysmir. They march on east, the battle mages surrender before their armies, and they take the citadel. Before Cuchulainn can be crowned, Hjalti secretly murders him and his loyalist contingent. These assassinations are blamed on the enemies of Cuchulainn, which, for political reasons, are still the Western Reach. Zurin Arctus, the Grand Battle Mage, not the Underking, then crowns Hjalti as Tiber Septim, new emperor of all Cyrodiil. After he captures the imperial throne, Septim finds the initial administration of a fully united Cyrodiil a time-consuming task. He sends the Underking to deal with imperial expansion into Skyrim and High Rock. Ysmir, mindful that it might seem as if Tiber Septim is in two places at once, works behind the scenes. This period of level-headed statesmanship and diplomacy, this sudden silence, heretofore unknown in the roaring tales of Talosian conquest, are explained away later. The assassination story is embroidered. Now it is popularly Talos' own throat that was cut. The human kingdoms are conquered, even Hammerfell, whose capture was figured to be an arduous task. The Underking wants a complete invasion, a chance to battle their foreign wind spirits himself, but Tiber Septim refutes him. He has already made a better plan, one that will seem to legitimize his rule. Cyrodiil supports the losing side of a civil war and are invited in. Finally, the Empire can turn its eyes onto the elves. The Underking continues to press on Tiber Septim the need to conquer Morrowind. The Emperor is not sure that it is a wise idea. He has heard of the Tribunal's power. The Underking wants his vengeance and reminds Tiber Septim that he is fated to conquer the elves, even the Tribunal. Arctus advises against that move, but Septim covets the ebony in Morrowind, as he sorely needs a source of capital to rebuild Cyrodiil after 400 years of war. The Underking tells him that with the Tribunal dead, Septim might steal the Tribunal's power and use it against the High Elves, certainly the oldest enemies of Lorkhan, predating even the Tribunal. Somerset Isle is the farthest thing from Tiber Septim's mind. Even then he was planning to send Zurin Arctus to the King of Alinor to make peace. The Ebony Need wins out in the end. The Empire invades Morrowind, and the Tribunal give up. When certain conditions of the armistice include not only a policy of non-interference with the Tribunal, but also, in the Underking's eyes, a validation of their religious beliefs, Ysmir is furious. He abandons the Empire completely. This was the betrayal the Greybeard spoke of, or so he thinks. Without the Underking's power, all ideas of conquering Tamriel vanish. Would have been nice, Septim thinks, but let's just worry about Cyrodiil and the human nations. Already there is a rebellion in Hammerfell. Pieces of Numidium trickle in, though. Tiber Septim, always fascinated by the dwarves, has Zurin Arctis research this grand artifact. In doing so, Arctis stumbles upon some of the stories of the war at Red Mountain. He discovers the reason the Numidium was made and some of its potential. Most importantly, he learns the Underking's place in the war, but Zurin Arctis was working from incomplete plans. He thinks it is the heart of Lorkhan's body that is needed to power the Numidium. While Zurin Arctis is raving about his discovery, the prophecy finally becomes clear to Tiber Septim. This Numidium is what he needs to conquer the world. It is his destiny to have it. He contacts the Underking and says he was right all along. They should kill the Tribunal and they need to get together to make a plan. While the Underking was away, he realized the true danger of Dagoth-Ur. Something must be done, but he needs an army and his old one is available again. The trap is set. The Underking arrives and is ambushed by Imperial guards. As he takes them on, Zurin Arctis uses a soul gem on him. With his last breath, the Underking's heart roars a hole through the battle mage's chest. In the end, everyone is dead. The Underking has reverted back to ash and Tiber Septim strolls in to take the soul gem. When the Elder Council arrives, he tells them about the second attempt on his life, this time by his trusted battle mage Zurin Arctis, who is attempting a coup. He has the dead guards celebrated as heroes, even the ones who were blasted to ash. He warns Cyrodiil about the dangers within, but says he has a solution to the dangers without. The Mantella. The Numidium, while not the god Tiber Septim and the Dwemer hoped for, the Underking was not exactly Lorkhan after all, does the job. After its work on Somerset Isle, a new threat appears, a rotting undead wizard who controls the skies. He blows the Numidium apart, but it pounds him into the ground with its last flailings, leaving only a black splotch. The Mantella falls into the sea, seemingly forever. Meanwhile, Tiber Septim crowns himself the first emperor of Tamriel. He lives until he is 108, the richest man in history. All aspects of his early reign are rewritten. Still, there are conflicting reports of what really happened, and this is why there is such a confusion over the question. Why does Alcair seem to be the birthplace of Talos, while other sources say he came from Atmora? Why does Tiber Septim seem to be a different person after his first roaring conquests? Why does Tiber Septim betray his battle mage? Is the Mantella the heart of the battle mage, or is it the heart of Tiber Septim? Tiber Septim is succeeded by his grandson Pelagius I. Pelagius is just not of the same caliber. In truth, he's a little nervous with all these provinces. Then an advisor shows up. I was friends with your grandfather, the Underking says. He sent me to help you run the Empire.
The Armorer's Challenge by Mimothinus. Competition between two skilled armorsmiths. 300 years ago, when Kateria became Empress, the first and only Dunmer to rule all of Tamriel, she faced opposition from the Imperial Council. Even after she had convinced them that she would be the best regent to rule the Empire, while her husband Pelagius sought treatment for his madness, there was still conflict. In particular from the Duke of Vengetto, Thane Minglumar, who took a particular delight in exposing all of the Empress's lack of practical knowledge. In this particular instance, Kateria and the Council were discussing the unrest in Blackmarsh and the massacre of Imperial troops outside the village of Armanias. The sodden swampland and the sweltering climate, particularly in summertide, would endanger the troops if they wore their usual armor.
I know a very clever armorer, said Kateria. His name is Hazadir, an Argonian who knows the environments our army will be facing. I knew him in Vivek when he was a slave to the master armorer there, before he moved to the Imperial City as a freedman. We should have him design armor and weaponry for the campaign.
Minglumar gave a short, barking laugh. Ha! She wants a slave to design the armor and weaponry for our troops? Cyrillus Sacus is the finest armorer in the Imperial City. Everyone knows that. After much debate, it was finally decided to have both armorers contend for the commission. The council also elected two champions of equal power and prowess, Nandor Baraid and Raphalis Ewell, to battle using the arms and armaments of the real competitors in the struggle. Whichever champion won, the armorer who supplied him would earn the Imperial Commission. It was decided that Baraid would be outfitted by Hazadir and Ewell by Sacus. The fight was scheduled to commence in 7 days. Cyrilisacus began work immediately. He would have preferred more time, but he recognized the nature of the test. The situation in Arminius was urgent. The Empire had to select their armorer quickly, and once selected, the preferred armorer had to act swiftly and produce the finest armor and weaponry for the Imperial army in Blackmarsh. It wasn't just the best armor they were looking for, it was the most efficient. Asakis had only begun steaming the half-inch strips of black virgin oak to bend into bands for the flanges of the armor joints when there was a knock at his door. His assistant Fandius ushered in the visitor. It was a tall reptilian of common markings, a dull, green-fringed hood, bright black eyes, and a dull brown cloak. It was Hazadir, Kateria's preferred armorer. I wanted to wish you the best of luck on the... Is that ebony? It was indeed. Sakis had bought the finest quality ebony weave available in the Imperial City as soon as he heard of the competition and had begun the process of smelting it. Normally, it was a 6-month procedure refining the ore, but he hoped that a massive convection oven stoked by white flames born of magicka would shorten the operation to 3 days. Asakis proudly pointed out the other advancements in his armory, the acidic lime pools to sharpen the blade of the dai katana to an unimaginable degree of sharpness, the akaviri forge and tongs he would use to fold the ebony back and forth upon itself. Hazadir laughed. Have you been to my armory? It's 2 tiny smoke-filled rooms. The front is a shop. The back is filled with broken armor, some hammers, and a forge. That's it. That's your competition for the millions of gold pieces in Imperial commission. I'm sure the Empress had some reason to trust you to outfit her troops, said Cyrilisacus kindly. He had, after all, seen the shop, and knew that what Hazadir said was true. It was a pathetic workshop in the slums, fit only for the lowliest of adventurers to get their iron daggers and cuirasses repaired. Asakis had decided to make the best quality, regardless of the inferiority of his rival. It was his way, and how he became the best armor in the Imperial City. Out of kindness, and more than a bit of pride, Asakis showed Hazadir how, by contrast, things could be done in real, professional armory. The Argonian acted as an apprentice to Asakis, helping him refine the ebony ore and to pound it and fold it when it cooled. Over the next several days, they worked together to create a beautiful dai katana with an edge honed sharp enough to trim a mosquito's eyebrow, enchanted with flames along its length by one of the Imperial battle mages, as well as a suit of armor of bound wood, leather, silver, and ebony to resist the winds of oblivion. On the day of the battle, Sakis, Hazadir, and Fandius finished polishing the armor and brought in Raphalis Yule for the fitting. Hazadir left only then, realizing that Nandor Barade would be at his shop shortly to be outfitted. The 2 warriors met before the Empress and Imperial Council in the arena, which had been flooded slightly to simulate the swampy conditions of Blackmarsh. From the moment Sakis saw Yule in his suit of heavy ebony and blazing dai katana, and Barade in his collection of dusty, rusted lizard scales and spear from Hazadir's shop, he knew who would win. And he was right. The first blow from the dai katana lodged in Barade's soft shield, as there was no metal trim to deflect it. Before Yule could pull his sword back, Barade let go of the now flaming shield, still stuck on the sword, and poked at the joints of Yule's ebony armor with his spear. Yule finally retrieved his sword from the ruined shield and slashed at Barade, but his light armor was scaled and angled, and the attacks rolled off into the water, extinguishing the dai katana's flames. When Barade struck at Yule's feet, he fell into the churned mud and was unable to move. The Empress, out of mercy, called a victor. Hazadir received the commission, and thanks to his knowledge of Argonian battle tactics and weaponry, and how best to combat them, he designed implements of war that brought down the insurrection in Arminius. Kateria won the respect of the council, and even, grudgingly, that of Thane Minglumir. Cyrilisacus went to Morrowind to learn what Hazadir learned there, and was never heard from again.
The Bear of Markarth, by Arianus Arius, Imperial Scholar. An account of Ulfric Stormcloak's short-lived, independent reign over the Reach. Ulfric Stormcloak is considered a hero by many for his part in quelling the Forsworn uprising. It is said that when the Empire abandoned Skyrim, and the natives of the Reach rebelled, undoubtedly due to the Nords' poor treatment of them, Ulfric Stormcloak and his militia was there, to retake their land from the Forsworn. In all the bravado and epic yarns the Skalds compose of his exploits, you would think Ulfric to be a giant of a man, equal to that of Tiber Septim in his cunning, leadership, and decisive actions. But the truth is far more revealing. Yes, from the years 174 to 176 of the Fourth Era, the Forsworn did in fact rule over the Reach as an independent kingdom from Skyrim. Yes, this was accomplished while the Empire was beset by Aldmeri Dominion forces and could not send the Legion to re-establish order. And yes, Ulfric Stormcloak did quell the rebellion without Imperial assistance. That much is true, but what the bards often fail to tell in their stories is that the Forsworn Kingdom was quite peaceful for those 2 years they were in power. True, some crimes were committed against former Nord landowners, often those accused of being the harshest towards their native workers. But on the whole, the Forsworn ruled their lands fairly, and were making overtures to be recognized by the Empire as a legitimate kingdom. In the wake of the aftermath of the Great War, you can imagine the backlog on stately matters the Empire had. Before a peace treaty could be resolved with the Forsworn, a militia led by Ulfric Stormcloak sieged the gates of their capital, Markarth. What happened during that battle was war, but what happened after the battle was over is nothing short of war crimes. Every official who worked for the Forsworn was put to the sword, even after they had surrendered. Native women were tortured to give up the names of Forsworn fighters who had fled the city or were in the hills of the Reach. Anyone who lived in the city, Forsworn and Nord alike, were executed if they had not fought with Ulfric and his men when they breached the gates. "You are with us, or you are against Skyrim," was the message on Ulfric's lips as he ordered the deaths of shopkeepers, farmers, the elderly, and any child old enough to lift a sword that had failed in the call to fight with him. So when a grateful empire accepted Ulfric's victory and sent soldiers to re-establish the rule of law in the Reach, it was no surprise that he would demand to be allowed to worship Talos freely before the Legion could enter. With chaos running through the streets of Markarth, and the reports of deaths rising every day, the Empire had no choice but to grant Ulfric and his men their worship. "We allowed them to worship Talos, in full violation of the White Gold Concordat with the Aldmeri Dominion, which recognizes the elven belief that Talos, as a human, cannot be one of the divines. In jeopardizing the treaty that so many sacrificed for during the Great War, the Empire was wrong. But what choice did they have, I ask you? Against the bearer of Markarth, Ulfric Stormcloak, no is not an answer."
You're a bit pale. Need a drink? Come on, take a few sips for me, my love.
Let's press on, I'll be okay.
All right then. All right.
Yes? What did you need? What is it now, you sweet talker? Yes? What did you need?
These types of ruins. I think I see why now.
Retire someday. Get myself an island.
Never saw anything.
I was always taught to avoid these types of ruins. I think I see why.
What was that?
Hold on. Did you hear something?
Wow. You really gotta hand it to the Divines. Nern truly is beautiful. Miles better than Cold Harbor, that's for sure.
Getting warmed up.
Ah, the power of the dragon is yours. There can be no doubt that you are the Dragonborn of prophecy.
Over here! I'm warning you. Damn it! I'm warning you. Back off.
I can always use the practice.
That's a bit, isn't it?
I think we're getting close. Let's keep moving.
Yes? What did you need?
What was that?
Now you're mine.
Now, come on!
I was just getting warmed up.
Wow. This place is truly something else. In all these
Interesting. Let's follow them.
This looks promising.
Yes, definitely early Akaviri stonework here.
We've got to get...
These people may dress primitive, but they are no less dangerous.
That.
Their wild fighting styles can be surprising, even to people like me.
Yes, these are Akaviri symbols. Here, let's see. You had the symbol for king and warrior, and of course the symbol for Dragonborn. That's the one that appears to have a sort of arrow shape pointing downward at the bottom. Yes, that's it. The symbol on the pillar on the left. Given that Skyhaven Temple was sealed against the return of the Dragonborn, I will try turning all the pillars to that symbol.
Let's see what those old blades left in our way.
If only these people were open to some negotiation, you know.
We should be
I was just
careful here.
thinking, the room could be a better place.
Look like pressure plates. Looks safe now. Let's move.
Yes? What did you need?
Wow.
Remarkably
That's
well preserved.
the sculpture of Remen Cyrodiil. I am old. Very old.
Ah, here's the blood seal. Another of the lost Akaviri arts. No doubt triggered by, well, blood. Your blood, Dragonborn. Look
Try
here.
dripping blood
You
onto
see
the
how the
carving.
ancient blades revered Remen Cyrodiil?
Life!
Be careful here. Wouldn't want you, or me, becoming some Forsworn's victim. I definitely wouldn't want a Hagraven experimenting.
As I live and breathe, we're actually standing in an Akaviri temple. We should take the chance to explore it, find out what's been left behind.
See how the Akaviri craftsmen were wicked.
We're here for Alduin's wall, right, Esbern?
Yes, of course. We'll have more time to look around later, I suppose. Let's see what's up ahead. Shows bones. Here it is. Aldrin's Wall, so well preserved. Huh? I've never seen a finer example of early Second Era Kaviri sculptural relief.
Esbern, we need information, not a lecture on art history.
Yes. Let's see what we have.
What is it now, you sweet
Look,
talker?
here is Aldrin. This panel goes back to the beginning of time, when Aldrin and the dragon cult ruled over Skyrim. Here, the humans rebel against their dragon overlords, the legendary Dragon War.
Yes?
Aldrin's defeat
What did you
is
need?
the centerpiece of the wall. You see, here is fallen from the sky. The Nord tongues, masters of the voice, are arrayed against him.
So does it show how they defeated him? Isn't that why we're here?
Patience, my dear. The Akaviri were not a straightforward people. Everything is couched in allegory and mythic symbolism. Yes. This here, coming from the mouths of the Nord heroes, this is the Akaviri symbol for shout. But there's no way to know what shout is meant.
You mean they used a shout to defeat Alduin? You're sure?
Oh, yes. Presumably something rather specific to dragons. Or even Alduin himself. Remember, this is where they recorded all they knew of Alduin and his return.
So we're looking for a shout then. Damn it. Have you ever heard of such a thing? A shout that can knock a dragon out of the sky?
The Greybeards might know.
You're probably right. I was hoping to avoid having to involve them in this, but it seems we have no choice.
I'll ask Arngir if he knows what shout they used.
Right. Good thing they've already let you into their little cult. Not likely they'd help Esbern or me if we came calling. We'll look around Skyhaven Temple and see what else the old blades might have left for us. It's a better hideout than I could have hoped for. Talos guard you.
Look here, in the third panel. The prophecy which brought the Akaviri to Tamriel in the first place. In
Just
search of the
sensing the
Dragonborn.
Magicka reserves.
Here are the Akaviri, the blades. You see their distinctive longswords. Now they kneel, their ancient mission fulfilled, as the last Dragonborn contends with Aldrin at the end of time. Are you paying attention, Delphine? You might learn something of our own history.
It's actually quite beautiful here.
So,
What is it, Serana?
what a day. Phew. I never thought I'd get to see a Blades temple, and an immense one at that. Skyrim, and by extension Tamriel, truly do have some wonderful and truly amazing things to see. Which is why I wouldn't want this world to come to an end, either by Alduin's hands or someone else's. There may be evil here, and sometimes things may suck, but there is some good to strive and keep fighting for, you know?
Banker's Bet by Porter Lidmley. It was a perfectly ordinary day in the main office of the Bank of Daggerfall. Normal transactions took place. Deposits were deposited, withdrawals were withdrawn, house mortgages were collected, letters of credit were gilded. When a teller named Clayton J. Whiffleton saw the little old lady approaching him, dragging 2 large sacks, each nearly as large as her, he changed his mind. It was not to be a perfectly ordinary day at the Bank of Daggerfall after all. I would like you to take the 30 million gold pieces I have in these sacks and open me an account, croaked the little old biddy. Certainly, madam, Whifflington said, eagerly. He counted the gold in the sacks and found that it was 30 million gold exactly. One moment, sonny, the little old lady chirped. Before I open the account, I would like to meet the man I'm trusting it to. I'd like to talk to the president of the bank. Whifflington wanted the president to know that he was the teller who had taken the largest single deposit that year, so eagerly sent word to the president's secretary. As it turned out, the president was equally eager to meet such a wealthy woman, so the old lady was brought to his office that very day. Pleased to make your acquaintance, milady. I'm Jaronder P. Baggleton, said the president. Jaronder P. Baggleton. My name, said the little old lady, is Petuva Smithworthy. That was, in fact, her real name. Thank you for seeing me. I'd like to conduct my business in a more personal way. I can certainly appreciate that, said Baggleton, chuckling. It is an appreciable sum of gold. Would it be rude of me to ask how you came by it? Not at all, said Mrs. Smetworthy. How came you by it? Asked Baggleton. I'll let you guess, replied Mrs. Smetworthy with a trace of unattractive girlish flirtation. Baggleton was a man of enormous imagination for a banker. He guessed inheritance and long-time thrift, but Mrs. Smetworthy coyly shook her head. Perhaps she had sold a large old mansion? No. In a moment of chumminess, Baggleton asked if the gold came as a result of plunder or thievery. Mrs. Smithworthy took no offense, but said no. Finally he admitted defeat. I'm a gambler, she said. In arena fights? He asked, interested. No, dearie. Different things. For example, I'd be willing to wager 25,000 gold pieces that at this time tomorrow morning your testicles will be covered in feathers. Mr. Baggleton was somewhat taken aback by the old woman's words. Could she be mad? Could she be a witch? He eliminated the latter possibility, for he had a sense for such things. If she was mad, she was still a rich mad woman, and he could use 25,000 gold pieces, so he took her wager. For the next 24 hours, Mr. Baggleton obsessed over his testicles. He checked his pants so often that afternoon, his subordinates feared the worst and suggested that he not touch anything and go home for the rest of the afternoon. He spent the night seated, his pants around his ankles, his beady banker's eyes focused on his scrotum. Each time he started to doze off, his vision was filled with images of Mrs. Smetworthy plucking feathers from his balls, cackling. Mr. Baggleton arrived at the bank late the next day, only moments before Mrs. Smithworthy's arrival. Accompanying her was a lean, bespectacled fellow she introduced as a barrister from the court. Her son, it turned out. Young Mr. Smetworthy always accompanied his mother when there was money involved, she explained. Enough banter, she crowed. Our bet, dearie. My dear madam, I can tell you that your gold will be quite safe at the Bank of Daggerfall. I hope it will not cause you distress to discover that your gold will be safer here than in your own hands. My family jewels are quite, shall we say, featherless, and you owe me a sum equal to 25,000 gold. Poor Mrs. Smetworthy's face fell when she heard this. Are you sure? Quite, madam. Not even one feather? Her voice suggested doubt. Mr. Baggleton could tell she thought he might be lying. Not one, I fear, madam. It's not that I don't trust you, Mr. Baggleton, but it is quite a lot of gold. Could I possibly see for myself? All he knew was that he was soon to be 25,000 golden pieces richer, and he was still a bit punchy from lack of sleep. Mr. Baggleton merely smiled and dropped his breeches to the floor. Mrs. Smedworthy examined his testicles very carefully, under, to the left, to the right. At last she was satisfied that there was not so much as a down feather anywhere in the region. When she was looking under them one last time, Mr. Baggleton heard a thwacking noise across the office. Young Mr. Smithworthy was banging his head against the stone wall. "What in the lady's name is wrong with your son, Mrs. Smedworthy?" he asked. "Nothing, dear," she said. "I merely bet him 100,000 gold pieces that by this time I would have the president of the Bank of Daggerfall by the balls." Letter from Kaiden, 18 Sun's Height 201. Lyria, I've many opinions about the company you keep. Most are unkind. I'm still livid about their abduction, but I know you've your reasons for joining, and although it might take me a while to fully understand, I'll remain by your side, as I promised. In the meantime, take this. Even if it's not your main weapon, keep it close. Please. And hopefully my worry is for naught. Letter from Kaiden, 18 Sun's Height 201. Lyria, I've lost count of the drafts. Decided 'twas for the better to just blurt it out. Trust is not easily built, and you have mine. I will always respect your decisions. I only hope you listen to my advice. No Daedra should ever be trusted. Only the schemer chooses who possesses the mail, and for how long. Should the day once come, know I will be there as you've been for me. Kaiden. Prophet Arden Sul, Volume 2. Volume 2, The Sicellum. When one approaches the walls of New Sheoth, the eyes are unavoidably drawn to a magnificent sight. A mystical flame rises from a simple tower that juts from a circular building. To some, the flame is a beacon of strength and guidance; to others, a mockery of their beliefs. It is the epicenter of a most interesting conflict, two sides of the same coin vying for the favor of their god. It is an unremarkable building with a most remarkable past. It is the Sicellum, Arden Sul. Although the Sicellum itself predates Arden Sul's life, both the Manics and the Demented contest the history of the Sicellums heavily. The Manics believe that on the very spot before New Sheoth existed, Arden Sul was first afflicted with the grand enlightenment and became blinded. The Demented postulate that the Sicellum was the location where Arden Sul endured the 100 Days' torture. However, it was not these purported events of Arden Sul's life that aligned the Sicellum with the prophet's name. It was his death. Here again the Manics and the Demented are divided. The Manics' story of Arden Sul's death began with a night of superlative revelry in the Sicellum. The event was replete with a seemingly inexhaustible supply of green mote and spirits. Arden Sul and his 213 followers engaged in a remarkable orgy of merrymaking and overindulgence, a night fraught with a profusion of singing, dancing, and fornicating. As the celebration reached a crescendo and the event reached its whirlwind apex, one by one, Arden Sul's followers began to drop to the ground, their life blood draining from their bodies until the ground was soaked crimson red. The excesses of their hedonism had taken its toll, and had caused their very hearts to explode. Although details are uncertain, it was said Arden Sul was the last to die with the look of pure bliss upon his face. The Demented have a radically different story of the events leading to Arden Sul's demise. Fearing that one of his followers would one day turn traitor and bury a blade in his back, Arden Sul sought a method to see deep into a man's soul and reveal his true feelings. After an exhaustive search, he uncovered the secrets of visceromancy, the science of divination through the observation of the entrails of others. Armed with this knowledge, he summoned his flock to the Sicellum. After imbibing the wine Arden Sul gave them, his followers suddenly felt themselves paralyzed, aware of their surroundings but unable to move. Then, one by one, Arden Sul cut out the still beating hearts of his followers and read their life blood. After removing all 213 hearts, he still hadn't located the traitor. Furious, he reached into his chest and tore out his own heart. Before the light faded from his eyes, Arden Sul was reported to have realized the ironic truth. He was the traitor, destined to kill himself. Whether or not one chooses to take either of those stories seriously is of little import. Truth remains that the Sicellum is a significant location of a highly regarded prophet's death. To this day, the building is still shared among the Manics and the Demented, and depending on Lord Sheogorath's whim, the favored side becomes its ruling body. King Edward, Volume 1. By an anonymous scribe. Chapter 1. Departure from Daggerfall. Long ago, when the world was in its springtime, before the Red Guards came, and the glorious Septim Empire was formed, but after the goblins had driven the dwarves out of Hammerfell, a son, Edward, was born to King Corsa the First of Daggerfall and his queen, Alara of Wayrest. The young boy lay drowsing in the palace orchard, high on a breezy hill overlooking the deep blue bay of Daggerfall. The constant autumn fog of Daggerfall had blown away, for the nonce, and the sky was a deep, endless blue. Moments like this were rare for young Prince Edward. This afternoon was the result of days of scheming, for he craved solitude as the other nobles he knew craved companionship. Now his tutor believed him engaged in extra arms practice. The master of arms believed him to be chasing deer with the huntsmaster, who thought he was studying Elvish. His father had no idea where he was, and didn't care, being occupied with his young wife and their sons and other pleasures of noble's life. The plop of an apple barely missing his head, he opened his pale grey eyes. There was a sweet, rotten smell in his nostrils. He sighed and stared up into the blue. Why should things fall down instead of up? If you stared at the sky long enough, you could feel as if you were falling into it. His eyes glazed and the pupils grew huge as the dark-ringed irises dilated. He was weightless, drifting. Another apple fell, grazing his ear, and he thudded to earth, crying out as first his rump struck and then his head. A silvery laugh sounded. Edward sat up abruptly and stared around, jaw hanging slack. 2 mounted men stood 10 feet away, still as if they were carved from stone, regarding him intently. Princes are not easily intimidated, not even the gentle, souled kind. But Edward had never seen or imagined anything like this pair. One had golden skin and eyes, was clad in white cloth trimmed with gold, and rode Edward blinked, it was still there, a unicorn. Beside the unicorn was a golden dragon, wings neatly folded, and on his back was a man clad in dark chainmail, a long sword at his side. He was bareheaded. His eyes glowed red in his dark face and his pointed ears. "You're elves! What?" "He's a clever child." The dark elf's voice was sardonic. He spoke perfect Brettonic. Edward noticed, his mind still working, although something seemed to have gone wrong with the rest of him. So it would seem. He did that mostly of himself. Remarkable for an untrained child. I merely helped him to concentrate. The high elf also spoke Bredic, but hesitantly, with a slight singing accent. Edward's tutor said that elves were incapable of human speech. Edward's gaze shifted rapidly over the 4 beings in front of him. Unable to find a comfortable resting place, he hoped briefly, fervently, that he was dreaming. His mind seethed with questions and demands. Then, quite suddenly, his tongue became unstuck. "But I wasn't concentrating at all. My masters say I'm incapable." Edward clamped his jaw down hard, suddenly realizing that it might be unwise to argue with beings such as these. The golden elf smiled broadly, showing perfectly white teeth. "Exactly." He radiated such warm approval that Edward felt his skin tingle pleasantly. It was a feeling that he'd only known with his long-gone mother. The other elf's face was expressionless. The red eyes bored into Edward as if he would pierce his soul. "Morlin! You're Morlin, the Witch King!" He jumped to his feet and faced the dark elf. "You stole my mother. My father will kill you." I did. Will he? Shall we call him and find out?" The dark elf straightened, and his eyes glowed deeper. A tiny puff of steam escaped the dragon's nostrils. A glowing aura appeared around his companion. Edward knew he wasn't going to call the guard. Why should they be slaughtered? These 2 looked capable of anything. Quite suddenly he was no longer afraid. If they were here to hurt him, they'd have done it by now. But a feeling of impotent rage remained. They'd taken his mother, and now... "Why are you here?" he demanded. "Edward, will you come with us?" The high elf spoke. Hearing him was like hearing a harp, cool as a breeze, warm as a fireside. The boy stood very still. He wanted very much to say yes. To his own amazement, he wanted to ask if he would see his mother, but instead, "My father," he croaked. "We'll miss you, no doubt." The irony was back in Morland's voice, a voice that made Edward think of icicles sparkling and dripping in winter sun. But there was a sort of hunger in his glowing eyes. A longing? His father wouldn't miss him, and he knew it. Shame ran through the boy, but he looked up at the broad-shouldered elf defiantly. "Are you my father?" Edward had meant the question to match the elf's sarcasm, but his hand crept to his ear, as if of itself. He wasn't expecting anything like his short-tempered, hearty, red-haired father, and Rain often said he had an elfin look. There was a heavy silence, and Edward sensed that Morland was taking the question at face value. But the truth had nothing to do with what Morland would say next. He would give the expedient answer still. No, it came reluctantly. He might be lying, of course, but Edward felt a deep wave of relief. "Does my mother have other sons?" Suddenly Edward knew she did not, and that the question would hurt the dark elf, and he was glad. "Your mother might be dead for all you know, or care, it seems." The dark elf's narrow nostrils twitched as if Edward stank, and the lines around his mouth deepened. She was not dead. Edward would have known. The bitter injustice of Morland's contempt stung. "Did she send you to me?" "Do you take me for an errand boy?" he snapped, and spoke to his companion. "Let us take him now and be gone. We may discuss it at leisure." The golden elf held up his hand. "Patience, my cousin," and to Edward, "Well, young man, will you come?" Dark tales were told of human children kidnapped by elves who hungered for young humans. "I don't know your name," Edward temporized. "Do you love your life here so much?" Edward looked at the palace in the distance, the banners floating lazily above the town below, the sparkling bay, the distant mountains. "I love Daggerfall." "Ah, and you shall return to hold it, Prince Edward. I, Eric, Harad, Aegon, the Archmagister, swear it to you." Morland swung about, protesting sharply in Elvish. The dragon spat a bit of flame, but the unicorn did not move. Its golden eyes regarded Edward steadily. Unicorns do not abide any sort of falsity. The words floated through his mind in his mother's voice. "Eric Harad Egan, the Archmagister, I will come with you." "You must ride with Morland. The Lord Akatosh has consented to this necessity." The elf made a sweeping gesture toward the dragon. "He wasn't fit to touch a unicorn, of course." "Very well, then. I don't suppose I could bring my dog?" "Where was he? Shag was always with him, asleep in the grass. Shag the ever alert?" Edward knelt to touch him. A heated discussion in Elvish ensued, during which the dragon scorched the grass. Morland swung down and picked Shag up with distaste. "Very well, then, but I warn you that Akatosh is at the limit of his patience. Mount, then." "Lord Akatosh, I am most deeply obliged by your indulgence. If ever I may repay it—" "You will," Morland interrupted. He seized Edward by the belt and tossed him up onto the dragon. Edward settled himself between the dragon's neck and wings, and the sleeping Shag was draped limply in front of him. "There isn't room for—" Edward began, and jerked in astonishment as the dragon shifted beneath him and grew larger. Much, much, much larger. Morland vaulted up behind with a prodigious leap for one in armor. The unicorn jumped the 9-foot wall, clearing it neatly. The dragon's great wings stretched. He crouched, then leapt into the air. His rider swayed wildly. The dark elf muttered something Edward couldn't understand in Elvish, and they steadied. The wings beat strongly, and the dragon circled low over the keep, gaining altitude slowly. People were running about now, shouting and pointing. Edward saw his old nurse and waved and shouted, "Goodbye! Goodbye! I'll be back sometime." Arrows flew through the air as the bowmen shot, while the nurse screamed and clutched at the arms of those nearest. King Corsair ran naked into the battlement, screaming and waving his fists. "Child of a demon, come back, and I'll thrash you within an inch of your worthless life. Morland, come down and fight like the man you aren't." Morland's loud laughter rang clear as temple bells, cascading over the keep. He shouted, "Be glad I don't, little king of the small cock." The dragon circled almost lazily and let out a huge gout of flame. Arrows clinked harmlessly off his golden scales. "I'm off to see my mother," Edward screamed down noting the upturned faces of his stepmother and her red-haired sons. Rowan had a fur-trimmed robe clutched around her, but her long hair floated wildly. 4 pairs of eyes fastening on him, not Morlin, glittering with fury and hatred. Edward stopped waving and clutched Shag tightly with both hands. Morlin's mail-clad arm was secured around his waist. Edward slumped against him, feeling quite safe for the first time in a very long while. The bowmen had stopped shooting. Most of them were looking at the royal family. The king danced with rage. The great dragon's wings beat harder now, and they headed due south, out over the water. "Are we going to Ebonheart?" The boy twisted round and looked up at Morlin. "Your mother awaits you at Firsthold in Somerset, little prince." "Why did you wait so long to fetch me?" "Querulous child, do you think dragons and unicorns do the bidding of elves or men? Your mother came to me, full willing, but she could not bring you. You were too closely guarded by your father's men. Would you have us lay waste to your land to take you by force? She thought you would be safe and cared for, and she was desperate. No, this was the dragon's plan." Of all the astonishing events of the afternoon, this was the most surprising. The notion that a dragon should take an interest in him when not even his own family did. But willing, the elf said, full willing. "You are the focus of large events, youngling. Your task is to prepare yourself to be a king such as your people have never known. Our task is to aid you. Sleep now." Waves of sleep assaulted Edward's mind one after the other. But he meant to ask Morlin about his mother, but the last wave was too big. It crashed right over him, and he slipped into dark fire-shot dreams.
The Black Arrow by Gorgic Gwyn. A story of revenge and a true master archer. I was young when the Duchess of Woda hired me as an assistant footman at her summer palace. My experience with the ways of the titled aristocracy was very limited before that day. There were wealthy merchants, traders, diplomats, and officials who had large operations in Eldenroot and ostentation palaces for entertaining. My relatives were all far from these social circles. There was no family business for me to enter when I reached adulthood, but my cousin heard that an estate far from the city required servants. It was so remotely located that there were unlikely to be many applicants for the positions. I walked for 5 days into the jungles of Valenwood before I met a group of riders going my direction. They were 3 Bosmer men, 1 Bosmer woman, 2 Breton women, and a Dunmer man, adventurers from the look of them. "Are you also going to Maliva?" asked Prolisa, one of the Breton women, after we had made our introductions. "I don't know what that is," I replied. "I'm seeking a domestic position with the Duchess of Woda." "We'll take you to her gate," said the Dunmer Missin Akin, pulling me up to his horse. "But you would be wise not to tell her grace that students from Maliva escorted you, not unless you don't really want the position in her service." Akin explained himself as we rode on. Maliva was the closest village to the Duchess's estate, where a great and renowned archer had retired after a long life of military service. His name was Hyalmaste, and though he was retired, he had begun to accept students who wished to learn the art of the bow. In time, when word spread of the great teacher, more and more students arrived to learn from the master. The Breton women had come down all the way from the western reach of High Rock. Akin himself had journeyed across the continent from his home near the great volcano in Morrowind. He showed me the ebony arrows he had brought from his homeland. I had never seen anything so black. "From what we've heard," said Kopali, one of the Bosmer men, "the Duchess is an Imperial whose family has been here even before the Empire was formed. So you might think that she was accustomed to the common people of Valenwood. Nothing could be further from the truth. She despises the village, and the school most of all." "I suppose she wants to control all the traffic in her jungle," laughed Prolisa. I accepted the information with gratitude, and found myself dreading more and more my first meeting with the intolerant Duchess. My first sight of the palace through the trees did nothing to assuage my fears. It was nothing like any building I had ever seen in Valenwood. A vast edifice of stone and iron, with a jagged row of battlements like the jaws of a great beast. Most of the trees near the palace had been hewn away long ago. I could only imagine the scandal that must have caused, and what fear the Bosmer peasants must have had of the Duchy of Woda to have allowed it. In their stead was a wide gray-green moat circling in a ring around the palace, so it seemed to be on a perfect, if artificial, island. I had seen such sights in tapestries from High Rock in the Imperial Province, but never in my homeland. "There'll be a guard at the gate," so we'll leave you here, said Akin, stopping his horse in the road. It'd be best for you if you weren't damned by association with us. I thanked my companions and wished them good luck with their schooling. They rode on, and I followed on foot. In a few minutes' time, I was at the front gate, which I noticed was linked to tall and ornate railings to keep the compound secure. When the gatekeeper understood that I was there to inquire about a domestic position, he allowed me to pass and signaled to another guard across the open lawn to extend the drawbridge and allow me to cross the moat. There was one last security measure, the front door, an iron monstrosity with a Woda coat of arms across the top, reinforced by more strips of iron and a single golden keyhole. The man standing guard unlocked the door and gave me passage into the huge, gloomy gray stone palace. Her Grace greeted me in her drawing room. She was thin and wrinkled like a reptile, cloaked in a simple red gown. It was obvious that she never smiled. Our interview consisted of a single question. Do you know anything about being a junior footman in the employment of an imperial noblewoman? Her voice was like ancient leather. No, Your Grace. Good. No servant ever understands what needs to be done, and I particularly dislike those who think they do. You're engaged. Life at the palace was joyless, but the position of junior footman was very undemanding. I had nothing to do on most days except to stay out of the Duchess's sight. At such times, I usually walked 2 miles down the road to Malaiva. In some ways, there was nothing special or unusual about the village. There are thousands of identical places in Valenwood, but on the hillside nearby was Master Hyamaste's archery academy, and I would often take my luncheon and watch the practice. Prolisa and Akin would sometimes meet me afterwards. With Akin, the subjects of conversation very seldom strayed far from archery. Although I was very fond of him, I found Prolisa a more enchanting companion, not only because she was pretty for a Breton, but also because she seemed to have interests outside the realm of marksmanship. There's a circus in High Rock I saw when I was a little girl, called the Quill Circus, she said during one of our walks through the woods. They've been around for almost as long as anyone can remember. You have to see them if you ever can. They have plays and sideshows and the most amazing acrobats and archers you've ever seen. That's my dream, to join them someday when I'm good enough. How will you know when you're a good enough archer? I asked. She didn't answer, and when I turned, I realized that she had disappeared. I looked around, bewildered, until I heard laughter from the tree above me. She was perched on a branch, grinning. I may not join as an archer. Maybe I'll join as an acrobat, she said. Or maybe as both. I figured that Valenwood would be the place to go see what I could learn. You've got all these great teachers to imitate in the trees here. Those ape men. She coiled up, bracing her left leg before springing forward on her right. In a second, she had leapt across to a neighboring branch. I found it difficult to keep talking to her. The Imga, you mean? I stammered. Aren't you nervous up at that height? It's a cliché, I know, she said, jumping to an even higher branch. But the secret is not to ever look down. Would you mind coming down? I probably should, anyhow, she said. She was a good 30 feet up now, balancing herself, arms outstretched, on a very narrow branch. She gestured towards the gate, just barely visible on the other side of the road. This tree is actually as close as I want to get to your Duchess's palace. I held back a gasp as she dove off the branch, somersaulting until she landed on the ground, knees slightly bent. That was the trick, she explained, anticipating the blow before it happened. I expressed to her my confidence that she would be a great attraction at the Quill Circus. Of course, I know now that was never to be. On that day, as I recall, I had to return early. It was one of the rare occasions when I had work, of a sort, to do. Whenever the Duchess had guests, I was to be at the palace. That is not to say that I had any particular duties, except to be seen standing at attention in the dining room. The stewards and maids worked hard to bring in the food and clear the plates afterwards, but the footmen were purely decorative, a formality. But at least I was an audience for the drama to come. The Black Arrow by Gorgic Gwyn, a story of revenge and a true master archer. Part 2. On the last dinner in my employ at the palace, the Duchess, quite surprisingly, had invited the Mayor of Malaiva and Master Hyamaste himself amongst her other guests. The servants' gossip was manic. The Mayor had been there before, albeit very irregularly, but Hyamaste's presence was unthinkable. What could she mean by such a conciliatory gesture? The dinner itself progressed along with perfect, if slightly cool civility among all parties. Hyamaste and the Duchess were both very quiet. The mayor tried to engage the group in a discussion of the Emperor Pelagius IV's new son and heir Uriel, but it failed to spark much interest. Lady Valea, elderly but much more vivacious than her sister the Duchess, led most of the talk about crime and scandal in Eldenroot. "I've been encouraging her to move out to the country, away from all that unpleasantness for years now," the Duchess said, meeting the eyes of the mayor. "We've been discussing more recently the possibility of her building a palace on Maliva Hill, but there's so little space there, as you know. Fortunately, we've come to a discovery. There is a wide field just a few days west, on the edge of the river, ideally suited." "It sounds perfect." The mayor smiled and turned to Lady Valea. "When will your ladyship begin building?" "The very day you move your village to the site," replied the Duchess of Woda. The mayor turned to her to see if she was joking. She obviously was not. "Well, think of how much more commerce you could bring to your village if you were close to the river," said Lady Valea jovially. "And Master Hyamaste's students could have easier access to his fine school. Everyone would benefit. I know it would put my sister's heart to ease if there was less trespassing and poaching on her lands." "There is no poaching or trespassing on your lands now, your grace," frowned Hyamaste. You do not own the jungle, nor will you. The villagers may be persuaded to leave, that I don't know, but my school will stay where it is." The dinner party never really recovered happily. Hyamaste and the mayor excused themselves, and my services, such as they were not needed in the drawing room where the group went to have their drinks. There was no laughter to be heard through the walls that evening. The next day, even though there was a dinner planned for the evening, I left on my usual walk to Maliva. Before I had even reached the drawbridge, the guard held me back. "Where are you going, Gorgic? Not to the village, are you?" "Why not?" He pointed to the plume of smoke in the distance. "A fire broke out very early this morning, and it's still going. Apparently, it started at Master Hyamaste's school. It looks like the work of some traveling brigands." "Blessed Stendar!" I cried. "Are the students alive?" "No one knows, but it'd be a miracle if any survived. It was late, and most everyone was sleeping. I know they've already found the master's body, or what was left of it, and they also found that girl, your friend, Prolissa. I spent the day in a state of shock. It seemed inconceivable what my instinct told me, that the two noble old ladies, Lady Valea and the Duchess of Woda, had arranged for a village and school that irritated them to be reduced to ashes. At dinner, they mentioned the fire in Maliva only very briefly, as if it were not news at all. But I did see the Duchess smile for the first time ever. It was a smile I will never forget until the day I die. The next morning, I had resolved to go to the village and see if I could be of any assistance to the survivors. I was passing through the servants' hall to the grand foyer when I heard the sound of a group of people ahead. The guards and most of the servants were there, pointing at the portrait of the Duchess that hung in the center of the hall. There was a single black bolt of ebony piercing the painting, right at the Duchess's heart. I recognized it at once. It was one of Missen Akin's arrows I had seen in his quiver, forged, he said, in the bowels of Dagoth-ur itself. My first reaction was relief. The Dunmer, who had been kind enough to give me a ride to the palace, had survived the fire. My second reaction was echoed by all present in the hall. How had the vandal gotten past the guards, the gate, the moat, and the massive iron door? The Duchess, arriving shortly after I, was clearly furious, though she was too well bred to show it, but by raising her web-thin eyebrows. She wasted no time in assigning all her servants to new duties to keep the palace grounds guarded at all times. We were given regular shifts and precise, narrow patrols. The next morning, despite all precautions, there was another black arrow piercing the Duchess's portrait. So it continued for a week's time. The Duchess saw to it that at least one person was always present in the foyer, but somehow the arrow always found its way to her painting whenever the guards' eyes were momentarily averted. A complex series of signals were devised, so each patrol could report back any sounds or disturbances they encountered during their vigil. At first, the Duchess arranged them so her castellan would receive record of any disturbances during the day, and the chief of the guard during the night. But when she found that she could not sleep, she made certain that the information came to her directly. The atmosphere in the palace had shifted from gloomy to nightmarish. A snake would slither across the moat, and suddenly her grace would be tearing down the east wing to investigate. A strong gust of wind ruffling the leaves on one of the few trees in the lawn was a similar emergency. An unfortunate lone traveler on the road in front of the palace, a completely innocent man it turned out, brought such a violent reaction that he must have thought that he had stumbled on a war, and in a way he had. And every morning there was a new arrow in the front hall, mocking her. I was given the terrible assignment of guarding the portrait for a few hours in the early morning. Not wanting to be the one to discover the arrow, I seated myself in a chair opposite, never letting my eyes move away for even a second. I don't know if you've had the experience of watching one object relentlessly, but it has a strange effect. All other senses vanish. That was why I was particularly startled when the Duchess rushed into the room, blurring the gulf for me between her portrait and herself.
"There's something moving behind the tree across the road from the gate,"
she roared, pushing me aside and fumbling with her key in the gold lock. She was shaking with madness and excitement, and the key did not want to seem to go in. I reached out to help her, but the Duchess was already kneeling, her eye to the keyhole, to be certain that the key went through. It was precisely in that second that the arrow arrived, but this one never made it as far as the portrait. I actually met Mr. Akin years later, while I was in Morrowind to entertain some nobles. He was impressed that I had risen from being a humble domestic servant to being a bard of some renown. He himself had returned to the Ashlands, and, like his old master Hyamaste, was retired to the simple life of teaching and hunting. I told him that I had heard that Lady Valea had decided not to leave the city, and that the village of Maliva had been rebuilt. He was happy to hear that, but I could not find a way to ask him what I really wanted to know. I felt like a fool just wondering if what I thought were true, that he had been behind Porlissa's tree across the road from the gate every morning that summer, firing an arrow through the gate, across the lawn, across the moat, through a keyhole, and into a portrait of the Duchess of Woda until he struck the Duchess herself. It was clearly an impossibility, and I chose not to ask. As we left one another that day, and he was waving goodbye, he said, "I am pleased to see you are doing so well, my friend. I am happy you moved that chair."
The Black Arts on Trial by Hannibal Traven, Archmagister of the Mages Guild. History. Necromancy, commonly called the Black Arts, has a history that dates back before recorded time. Virtually all the earliest laws of the land make mention of it as expressly forbidden on pain of death. Independent practitioners of the arts of sorcery, however, continued its study. The Psychic Order of the Isle of Artium, precursor to our own Mages Guild, also forbade its use, not only because it was dangerous, but their belief in the holy and unholy ancestor spirits made it heretical. Again, despite this, we hear many stories of students and masters who ignored this stricture. When Vanus Galerion left Artium, he may have disagreed with the Psychics on much, but he also refused to allow necromancy to be taught in the guild. Almost 1,100 years have passed since the time of Vanus Galerion, and there have been many archmagisters to lead his guild. The question of necromancy has continued to be asked. The strictures against it in the guild have never been lifted, but attitudes about it have shifted back and forth over the years. Some archmagisters have been inclined to ignore it entirely. Some have fought very actively against it, and still other archmagisters have been rumored to be necromancers themselves. In my new role as Archmagister of the Mages Guild, it is my duty to set policy on this matter. Though I have my own opinions on the Black Arts, I took counsel with two of the most learned mages in the Empire, Magister Voskalis of Corinth and Magister Uliseta Gracog of Orsinium, and we debated for 2 days. What follows are summaries of the salient points of the debate, argument and counter-argument which led to the resolution of the Mages Guild on the subject of necromancy. Argument. Argument by Master Gracog. Necromancy is poorly understood. We will not make it disappear by ignoring it. As an intellectual institution dedicated to the study of the magical arts and sciences, we have obligations to the truth. Censoring ourselves in our scholarship is antithetical to our mission of neutrality and objectivity. Counter-argument by Master Kalis. The Mages Guild must balance its quest for knowledge with responsible caution and ethical standards. It is not censoring a student's course of study to have him proceed cautiously and with purity of purpose. It is not limiting a student's freedom to set rules and boundaries. Indeed, it is essential. Argument by Master Kalis. Necromancy is an anathema throughout the civilized world. To embrace it publicly, the Mages Guild would inspire fear and hostility in the populace at large. Vanus Galerian wanted this institution to be unlike the Psychic Order, which was elitist and separatist. We ignore public opinion at our own risk. We will certainly lose our charters in many places, including very likely the whole of Morrowind, where sentiment against necromancy is very strong. Counter-argument by Master Grakog. Yes, we should be sensitive to the concerns of the community, but they should not and must not dictate our scholarship. Necromancer, to many uneducated persons, simply means an evil mage. It is madness to limit our work because of prejudices and half-formed understanding. It is an affront to the purpose of objective study to turn our back on a subject merely because of public opinion. Argument by Master Grakog. Necromancers are a scourge of Tamriel, whether operating independently or in concert with its lords or king of worms, Mani Marco. They are responsible for many horrors, animated zombies and skeletons and other forms of the undead. To best combat this menace, we must understand the powers of the necromancer, and we cannot do that by restricting our study of the black arts. Counter-argument by Master Kalis. No one is disputing the threat of the black arts. In fact, that is the very essence of my argument against the Mages Guild making it a school to be taught to our initiates. We can and should know what our enemy is capable of, but we must be careful not to step into a trap of looking too deep into his ways and making those ways our own. We do no one any good if by studying the evil ways we become evil ourselves. Argument by Master Kalis. Necromancy is inherently dangerous. One cannot dabble in it. The simplest spell requires the spilling of blood, and immediately begins to corrupt the caster's soul. This is not conjecture, but simple fact. It is irresponsible of the guild to teach and thereby encourage a sort of magical study which has proven itself, time and again, to bring nothing but terror and misery on the practitioner and the world. Counter-argument by Master Grakog. All schools of Magicka are dangerous to the uninitiated. A simple fireball spell from the School of Destruction can cause great harm when cast by a novice, not only to others but to the mage himself. The School of Mysticism by its very nature forces the practitioner to divorce his mind from logic, to embrace a temporary sort of insanity which one might argue is very like corrupting one's soul. Argument by Master Grakog. The guild already permits some form of necromancy. The schools of Magicka are, as we know, artificial constructs, originally formulated by Vanus Galerian to divide and thereby simplify study. They have changed many times throughout the years, but at their heart every master knows they are all linked together. When a student of conjuration summons a guardian ghost, he is touching on the school of necromancy. When a student of enchantment uses a trapped soul, he too may be considered guilty of a black art. The school of mysticism, as I have stated before, has some kinship with necromancy as well. To state that students may not learn the ways of necromancy is to stifle common skills in the other, more historically legitimate schools of the guild. Counter-argument by Master Kalis. Yes, the schools are intertwined, but the standard spells of each school have passed the proof of time. We know that a student of mysticism, properly instructed, will not be permanently harmed by his experience. In many ways, it is a question of extremes, how far we would permit our studies to take us. Necromancy, by its nature, relies on the practitioner going further into the darkness than is wise, virtually guaranteeing his destruction. It has no place in the Mages Guild. Conclusion. The risks of studying necromancy outweigh its usefulness. The guild does not wish to censor the study of any of its members, but it will not tolerate studies in the black arts, except in limited form for the purpose of combating its evil adherents. This may only be done by rare individuals who have proven themselves both highly skilled and highly cautious, and then only with my express permission and supervision. Afterward, I regret to acknowledge the truth behind the rumor that Master Ulyssetta Grakog was more than an apologist for necromancy, she was a necromancer herself. Upon this revelation, the Knights of the Lamp attempted to arrest her at the guildhouse in Orsinium, but she made good her escape. We have every confidence in the replacement Magister in Orsinium. Though I disagreed, I respected her logical reasoning enough to include her arguments in this book, and I see no reason to remove them. It is disappointing, however, to see that her interest in the truth was nothing more than a euphemism for her slavery to the Black Arts. This unfortunate situation merely illustrates how essential it is for the guild members to be wary of the lure of necromancy, and be vigilant to its practitioners' infiltration in our mages' guild.